Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. All right, today we're going to discuss a concept that I use in my practice called corporate enough. And what that means in a nutshell is how do we put enough guardrails and enough structure into the business for it to thrive and grow profitably without creating a situation where the entrepreneur hates it because all of the creativity and all of the fun has been sucked out of their daily existence. What I find with the folks that I get to work with, that none of them got in business because they wanted to be corporate. They wanted to get in business because they wanted to do their own thing. And as these folks get going and become successful in what they're doing, naturally structure needs to start coming into the business. Structure sometimes is the bane of existence of creative entrepreneurs. However, we need to have enough of it so that we can move forward. And we call that corporate enough. And we have a system that we're going to go through briefly today. And we base corporate enough. Inside of that, we do it by trying to balance 4 different areas. And those areas are people, sales, profit, and self. And balance may even be the wrong word. It's more like trying to have all 4 of those in harmony together because they frankly are never in balance. We try to get them as close as possible. So today we're going to run through what that means under the corporate enough umbrella. How do people, sales, profit, and self interact with each other so that that entrepreneur or the executive team can move the business forward while still having a good time with it. The first one that we talk about is people. And people has a few key components to it. Those people can be your internal team members. They can be vendors. They can be folks that you interact with on a daily basis, whether that's a customer, client, or family member. But here's what it means in a nutshell. Building and leading a team. Entrepreneurs start out on their own, generally as one-person operations. They start getting some traction, and now all of a sudden they need to start putting people around them to take the business forward. Often what will happen is folks will start making their first hire based on a couple of things. Hey, it's my cousin Bobby. Hey, it's my friend Sally. And they'll make a friendship hire. At that point, we probably know, or they're hoping that at least it's a cultural fit, like you kind of know that person. And so maybe you'll get along. The other kind of hire that entrepreneurs may make first off is a technical fit, someone who has a certain skill set that they bring to the party so they can get a task done. Both of those are okay, and both of those systems on standing by themselves leave a lot of chance to the system. And here's what I mean by that. You need someone that not only has the technical skill set to get the job done, but also someone that is a cultural fit. And I'll give you an example of how I go about that. My right hand, Elizabeth, and I have been together coming up on 8 years. And when I knew that I needed someone beside me, I knew what the technical set needed to be. But at the same time, and lots of people could fit that bill. But more importantly, I needed to know that, can this person ride beside me and can I match with them from a personality standpoint? So we spent time on that, which we'll get into later. We use a system called the DISC profile. And so we matched both at the same time. How do we get the culture set the right way so that we can interact together on a day-to-day basis and understand each other? And then how can I make sure that the technical set is what I need? We match those two together. That's step number 1. The next one is being open and transparent with communication with team members. What I'll see often happen is an entrepreneur will hire in their first person or persons, but the trust level is very low. So the entrepreneur does not know how to use their team member correctly, and they'll tend to guard information. And I'm a proponent of, if you've gone through the due diligence of trying to hire the right person, you may as well start sharing information with them, or you're not going to maximize their opportunity inside of your company. You're not going to maximize your opportunities to grow yourself. So being able to communicate clearly and effectively and nonstop is a huge skill set that entrepreneurs have to learn, particularly when you're used to being a one-man band or one-woman band, and now trying to get results through other people. That comes along with the delegation and trust part. I will often see trust. People trust at different levels. There are some people that will trust on the word hello, and there are some people that won't trust the entire time you know them. And somewhere in the middle is the right answer. And the way I try to explain that to folks or encourage is to you've got to start delegating, but you delegate slowly, right? You delegate with very simple tasks. It may, being a little bit elementary, but it may be like, hey, Elizabeth, we turn the lights on at 11. There's the light switch. Can you start turning on the lights at 11? Now that I see that she can handle the light switch, I trust that. Now we move on to the next thing, so that by the end of that journey, she's handling all kinds of things for me that may even be client facing, that on the first day, that might be too soon to give out that type of trust. But she's earning the trust along the way by demonstrating her competence. And when the competence is delivered, my confidence in the relationship starts growing. The onus right now on that entire part of that relationship lies with the entrepreneur, because you've got to be comfortable starting to feed things to judge competence level, which will allow you to build confidence in the person that you're with. Those are a couple of the key pillars on the people side of the business. We can spend lots of episodes diving in even deeper on each of those. But in the effort of time, we'll move over to sales part. So we've gone people, we're going to go people, sales, profit, self. On the sales part, it's understanding your market, right? That lots of people sell lots of things. We are all salespeople to some degree. And what entrepreneurs tend to do is they have a product, they love it, and they'll put it out there and hope for the best. And that's kind of okay. That's pretty normal too. And the net is usually pretty wide. When I started, I'm in my 24th year of coaching. And in the beginning, I would coach anybody who would write me a check. And that's pretty normal for any entrepreneur. Anyone who will pay you, you will give them an opportunity to give you money. As time goes by, understanding what you're good at and understanding your market become paramount. I'm pretty focused in who I like to work with now, and what I'm really good at, and not getting over my skis. And most entrepreneurs will go through that cycle at varying degrees of speed. But the faster you can know who your target market is, the better. You are not trying to please all the people all of the time. How do you do that? Lots of market research, staying updated on industry trends, lots of reading, see what your competitors are doing, successfully and unsuccessfully, and trying to find your niche in the marketplace. After that, determining what is your value proposition, what makes you different from the other folks. One of my clients makes widgets, and the widgets are not hard to make. So there's lots of competitors out there selling the same widgets. So figuring out, why would someone want to buy our widget, and being able to deliver that message appropriately becomes a very big deal. So defining the value proposition of your product becomes paramount. How are you different from the competitors that may be selling the very same thing? Sales strategies come into play next. How do we build pipelines? That could be through friends, families. Technology is super helpful in this area now, but you've got to be casting a net to start building people that can be interested and know about your product. And then listening to the customers. There's a great book that I like to refer to called Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard. You'll hear me mention Ken Blanchard numerous times throughout our journey together, because he's one of the backbones of how I run my practice, and it's called Raving Fans. And in that book, it talks about 3 very simple principles: deciding what you want, which is that value proposition, or what is it you want to go sell, deciding what the customer wants. And the way you decide what the customer wants is by listening to them, asking questions, getting feedback, not being afraid of feedback, and not having tunnel vision. And then the third pillar is deliver that product +1. What is the one little extra thing we can do that consumers can't do for us? And the landscape is littered with great examples. My favorite one going on right now is Bourbon Steak. I love to go to Bourbon Steak. They make a great steak. So do other people. Other people make great steaks. What does Bourbon Steak do that others don't? As soon as I sit down, I know that I'm going to get great French fries with 3 different dipping sauces, and I'm going to tell the world about it on a daily basis. That is their raving fan moment for me. And lots of companies have best-in-class practices that are similar. Their steak is wonderful, and I'm sure other places make wonderful steaks. But the thing that I talk about is the Bourbon Steak extra +1 service that creates me to be a raving fan. So think about that as you're out there on your sales journey as well. The next part that we go through is profits. And it's so interesting to me that entrepreneurs, or even young executives in companies, when you get started out, the profit part of the business is usually the last thing anybody ever talks about or learns, which is so interesting to me. It's typically when you get hired or you're learning your skill set, you're learning how to be in front of customers, those types of things first. Or as an entrepreneur, you're thinking about your product and how wonderful it's going to be because you're just full of energy and passion. But at the end of the day, if your business is not profitable, it will not last unless you are fortunate enough to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or in the inheritance business or win the lottery or things like that. The profit part of the business, although it tends to be the last part folks learn, is beautifully simple. And the reason it's beautifully simple is because it's just numbers, and numbers don't have personality, and numbers don't lie to you, and numbers don't come in bad moods or good moods or ulterior motives. It's just a report card. And so getting over the intimidation factor of having great financial statements, having a good bookkeeper, having the right accountant, having the right financial reporting to where you can see in real time or at least weekly and monthly how the business is doing gives you the report card to know, are we moving in the right direction? Do we have any waterfalls coming that we need to be concerned about? And what kind of moves do we need to be making for the future? So the profit part of the business is paramount. Financial literacy is paramount for entrepreneurs, and it's okay that it's intimidating. I've never met an entrepreneur other than CPAs and bookkeepers who say, I want to get into business because I can't wait to dive into spreadsheets and financial management. So it's natural to be a little nervous about that, but it's so easily overcome by simply hiring good people around you. The right bookkeeper, the right CPAs, things of that nature who can report to you on a monthly or weekly basis, because the repetition of staring at financial statements will get you through that nervousness very quickly. We like to also go by a mantra called low-cost producer mindset. And that means we do not want to spend money on things that the customer does not care about. That might be a fancy office. That might be extra snacks in the office room or a ping pong table or things like that. In restaurants, I use the terminology this way, that we spend money in the front of the house because that's what the customer cares about. We spend a lot of money in bathrooms, a lot of money's in the dining rooms, but in the kitchen and office areas, we become low-cost producers because it doesn't matter, right? The stove does not care if there's a pretty picture on the wall. So low-cost producer mindset helps businesses a lot. You'll also see this flip side of that. Lots of particularly tech companies that raise a lot of money up front will not have a low-cost producer mindset, never make a profit, spend money like it grows on trees, and eventually run out of it. So low-cost producer mindset from the jump helps a ton. And then strategies under that too of how do we scale this business? How do we make more widgets? Do we need to bring on more people, bigger warehouse, outsource things? Things like that always need to be part of the strategic part of financial management. Financial management is both tactical and strategic. The tactical part is how do I get from day one to the next day, to the next week, to the next month? Strategic means how do I start looking into next year, to the next 2 years, to the next 5 years? Both are super important. I love the profit part of the business because it's just like a puzzle, really. It's nothing that needs to be nervous to be talked about. And then finally, diversifying income streams when you can. And that's tricky. There's all kind of noise out there, and people will talk to you about you need multiple income streams. And then there's some out there that say, no, just stick with what you know. And I think both camps have validity. Managing multiple income streams is certainly an opportunity to expand yourself and your empire. It's also an opportunity to lose focus. And it's okay to be good at one thing and just drive that into the ground nonstop. So let's be conscious of that too. And then the fourth pillar there is self. So we've talked a little bit about people, sales, profit, and then finally self. And I'll often see entrepreneurs, particularly young entrepreneurs, who get going with their business. And it's very easy to fall in love with that. Because typically entrepreneurial type businesses are initially passion driven. And when they are passion driven, you can fall in love with that the same way you can fall in love with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And what can happen there is you get so wrapped up in that business that nothing else becomes important. And relationships can fail, friendships can fail because you're just so wrapped up in what you're doing equally that you're ignoring the rest. So we spend a lot of time making sure that the self pillar of people, sales, profit, and self is just as important as the other three. How do we do that? Well, self-awareness is a big thing, and self-awareness of how you interact with your business and how you interact with others, it's measurable. At Well Coached, we use EQ, we use emotional intelligence indicators and assessments to grade it. because then we have something to work on. Emotional intelligence is definitely something that can be monitored, measured, and improved upon if you so choose to do that. And it will show up. How am I showing up with others? Where do I need to start spending more time or less time? Things like that. The other part about the self is continuous learning, always being a student of the game. Here's the thing. When you become a successful entrepreneur, it won't last unless you keep growing, because someone is going to be chasing you immediately, which is flattering, right? So someone sees that you're up and running and doing your thing really well, you are immediately going to attract competitors. Now, hopefully you're far enough in front of them and that you're also doing such a great job that they're not going to catch you. But continuous improvement, continuing to be a student of the game, will keep you out in front and keep you on the cutting edge of things. Work-life balance, you hear a ton of noise about work-life balance. I don't think it exists. Again, I like to use the word work-life harmony because it's different from everyone. You'll hear advisors who will tell you, you need to unplug, go on vacation, and leave the computer at home. Well, for some entrepreneurs, that's more stressful than anything else, and they come back tense, high blood pressure, and stressed out beyond belief. For some folks, going on vacation is absolutely important, but maybe they take 1 hour a day to just check in and clear the deck and make sure things are going on. It is absolutely different strokes for different folks. The key is to identify what works for you. There is not a one system fits all here, in my opinion, but the key is to pay attention to the other side of your life other than just work. So boundaries become a very big thing, and setting boundaries with clients as you're a young entrepreneur is very difficult, very, very difficult to do, because you're in the pleasing business and trying to trap dollars from anyone who will give them to you. But trying to have the discipline early on to also take care of your health, your family, and your own personal needs will help you last much longer and find success quicker. Managing that stress is, burnout's a big word today. I'm old enough to know that burnout was not even a word a couple of decades ago. And to me, the best way to figure that out is get outside and go do something, right? Whether that's exercise, walk, going to the park, doing something to shake up your rhythm. Some people are built differently. Some people the word burnout's not a thing, stress isn't a thing, while others live in stress mode all the time. So fighting it also becomes very individualistic as well. Some folks will walk around the block after every meeting helps. Some people working out at 5 a.m. helps. Some people working out at 10 a.m. helps, or whatnot. But finding something outside of work is paramount so that you don't just get married to the work, because that work's not going to take care of you when you get old. You need support system people around you. So quickly recap from corporate enough. How do we put in enough structure in the business so you can maintain the creativity and the passion that got you there and not accidentally start hating the business? We do that in the 4 pillars. How do we keep in harmony? People, sales, profit, and self. And every single day, paying attention to a little bit of each one of those. And if you do that, you've got a very good shot of taking your passion, putting it in a package that is sustainable, corporate enough, and allow you to keep growing. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.